All right, welcome everybody. Excited to get into this one. We're going to be talking to Adi Atoll. We're going to be talking about this idea of cold calls and community, building AI native outbound systems that feel human to your buyers. Adi, thanks for joining, and how the heck are you?
Mike, I'm so excited to be here. How are you doing?
Hey, not too bad, not too bad. Excited to jump into the talk track today. Um, um, I think a lot of people know who Ask Elephant is, but in case they don't, maybe tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you guys do over there at
Yeah,
Ask Elephant.
absolutely. I am head of sales development here at Ask Elephant, so I run our SDR team. I was actually one of the first sales hires and seventh hire at Ask Elephant, so I've been here since before we had raised a C round. We were completely bootstrapped. I've gotten to build it from zero. It's been an absolute blast. And then
Awesome.
Ask Elephant helps you be better humans and how you relate to your prospects, your buyers, and your clients.
I love it. I love it. I'd forgotten that you were so early. What a fun journey, and congrats on kind of the growth. Like I said, you guys are definitely making some fun noise out there. So cool. Well, would love to dive in kind of to the topic at hand, but would love to just start big picture for a minute. I mean, you're right in the thick of things when it comes to all things sales development. Maybe just I'd love your quick take on what's going on.
I mean, Gosh, I think that right now we are in this space where we're all trying to figure out how to do things at scale, and we're using AI, and we're trying to figure out how to leverage it well. And we're trying to figure out how to do it in such a way that the prospect's experience is still fundamentally very human. They're having a positive experience. All of us have gotten, I mean, gosh, how many emails do you get a day, Gabe, right now from like AI emails?
I mean, I think I did count one time, but I'm getting close. Depending on the day, it's 50 to I think maybe 100. So,
Exactly. So we're getting dozens of these emails, and so we know, like, hey, this doesn't feel good. I don't like just being another number in people's sequences. It's gotten so much worse than it was 5 years ago whenever sequences got really popular. And so
yeah.
it's how do we use AI well? How do we make sure that we're leveraging this appropriately while still giving a very human experience to our prospects and to our buyers?
I love it. Fascinating. Yeah, yeah. Finding that balance seems like it's harder than ever. So you guys do, again, you're right in the thick of it. You're running teams. Ask Elephant kind of plays in this world as well. You're big on the phone. I mean, that's something I think you guys kind of obviously believe. You preach. Would love to hear a little bit about how you feel like that's working and not working in the world. So one of the things I know you touch on is this idea of a buyer narrative. Talk to me a little bit about that. What is it?
Yeah, so buyer narrative is just the story that our buyers tell themselves. It's whenever I'm talking to a prospect, what is their story about being sold to? What is their story that they're telling themselves about having a conversation with me or with you? And so if I'm selling to you, Gabe, I am trying to curate an experience for you of what it's like to be sold to by Ask Elephant. Now, one of the best ways where we have control of that is actually the phones. Like we are building a story together, we're going back and forth, and I have a lot more. I have the ability to dictate what that story
Yeah.
is going to be whenever we're having a conversation.
Interesting, interesting. And how do you start to build that into like a call? How do you start to build buyer narratives into kind of calls?
I think it always starts with the opener. Like just very bluntly, it's what you say in the first 15 to 30 seconds of a call, right?
Those still seem to be that's the money moment.
It's the
It's
opener.
you either get it or you don't get it. And how do you kind of coach organizations to think about that, or how have you seen that be most effective? Is kind of that opener.
Yeah, so I think that the way that a lot of people are doing this right now is they jump into a call and they're like, hey, Gabe, the reason I'm calling is because I'm with Ask Elephant and we do X, Y, and Z. And so
Yeah,
I'm jumping into the call being like, let me tell you about us.
yeah,
And in the prospect's head, when we get back to this concept of buyer narrative, what you're going to do is you're going to be like, oh, this person's selling something to me and this isn't relevant. I am building this narrative internally and I am checking off boxes in my head going, is this something that I should be handling? Is this a conversation I want to have?
yeah,
So it's all
yeah.
about building an opener that changes that story.
Hmm.
So instead of, hey, this is ADA calling with Ask Elephant, we're going to say, hey, Gabe, the reason I'm calling you is to book a meeting. And then we're going to be quiet. We're going to stop talking. It's kind of awkward. So that your next question is like, wait, what is this about?
Hmm.
Why are you calling me? Who is this again? Because you don't know if I'm your doctor or if I'm your pharmacy or if I'm the school district.
You might
You're
not.
like, why are you scheduling a meeting? What is this about? Right? And so now you're not jumping into, oh, this is a sales call in those first couple seconds. And then I'm going to name a topic that's important to you. So if I know what you're accountable for, Gabe, remind me of your title.
Yeah, I'm CRO over here at Autonom.
Okay, so you're accountable for everything revenue, right? So if I say, hey, are you still the person who's handling reporting the forecast to the board?
Yeah.
You're going to be like, yeah, I do that, right? They're
Yeah.
like, great. Reason I wanted to talk to you is because we help CROs do X, Y, and Z with their forecast. Now
Yeah.
we're already going back and forth. And this entire conversation has been negotiating whether or not we book a meeting. It's not about do you buy something. We're discussing if a meeting is relevant to you.
Okay, interesting. This is a little different than the what's been the standard the last 100 years.
enough.
What do they call it? The upfront contract, I think, is what they used to refer to it. It was more like the, hey, I'm Gabe. If you've got 30 seconds, I'm
Mission
gonna.
based opener.
Yeah, maybe it goes by different names, but they kind of get that upfront idea. Do you mind if I take 30 seconds? If you like it, great. If you don't, we'll let you hang up. And they get that concept. So you're kind of, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm old school, but that seems like what a lot of people are doing when they call me on cold calls. They're still using kind of that concept. You've approached it slightly different though, but and the thing I think I like about yours is they do start maybe. I often ask no matter what. I kind of am like, stop. Like what is this about? Type. I like almost go there anyways. So I like that your concept just lets me ask the question I usually want to ask, which is,
Why am I on
what
this
is
call?
this about? Yeah, what is this?
Yeah, the first 15 to 30 seconds are why me, why you, and what is this about? Right? Why are you the person who's calling me right now? Why am I on this call? Why am I the person you chose to call? And then what is the core concept? What do we want from this? Well, my
Yeah.
favorite thing about using that opener, when we start with that, like, hey, the reason I'm calling is to schedule some time with you, is what we're negotiating the entire call. You know
Yeah.
what the ideal outcome is for me. So we're not discussing, should you buy this product? We're not discussing, like, is this something you want to do? Several demos, go through a buyer evaluation on this. Is this something you're trying to purchase right now? All we're negotiating is this relevant to you enough to have a conversation?
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel like where do you feel like most people go wrong in this? You touched on it a little bit. Where do you hear them going kind of down wrong paths or down wrong places here?
I think that they fail to establish relevance before they pitch. And so if they do establish relevance, they're either doing it by just persona, right? Or they're doing it like as a, hey, you're in this industry. I talk to lots of VPs of sales and they always say this thing. But I haven't gotten the prospect to agree that there's relevance. And so if I ask a responsibility question or an opt-in question up front of, hey, are you responsible for X, Y, and Z? Or, hey, are you guys on HubSpot or Salesforce? I'm using some sort of question to get you bought into the conversation to agree that this is remotely relevant to you in a conversation that you should be having.
Interesting. And those relevancy questions would be what those are two examples. Anything else that kind of comes to mind that typically allow you to kind of play in that realm?
I like to call them opt-in questions. So I like to use a this or a that or a
Okay.
responsibility. So responsibility is if this is your responsibility, it is now your job to talk to me. I have tied what I'm talking about to your job and what you're accountable to do. And an opt-in question is just a this or that. And the secret to all of this is to make sure that whichever they say out of the two options is relevant to you and you can go pitch them on, right?
Got it.
But I'm giving you something that makes you go, oh yeah, that's it. That is true. That is relevant to me. And so now you're going, well, tell me what this is about more, because I am showing respect for the fact that this might not be relevant. I'm giving you the chance to opt out.
And then, so what happens? So then, typically, probably what happens is a prospect's going to say, let's assume they say yes. What does that do, and where do you go next?
Yeah. So the way that I normally would phrase something like this is like, hey, just to make sure this is even relevant, are you guys on HubSpot or Salesforce? Let's say you say Salesforce or HubSpot, right? Great. The reason I ask is because we work with and instead of going to persona, I'm going to say people who use this tool to accomplish this goal. I'm skipping over to generalizing you. One of the main failures in the current scripts is that we generalize our prospects a lot and we go, oh yeah, I talked to lots of VPs of sales. What happens in my mind as a prospect, and this might be true for you too, is I immediately go, no, I'm not like other VPs of sales. I'm not like other heads of business development. I'm unique because I'm at a startup, because of this, because of that. I'm going, don't put me in that box. I'm not like anyone else in my title.
Interesting.
Because I'm an individual.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So then you're able to. So then where do you? So you kind of get them. Try to be a little more specific. So I work with people who are, again, let's use that example on HubSpot, and then where does it kind of go from there? You're going to try to bring in your product, I guess, and kind of what it does at this point.
Exactly. So in this case, we use what we call the big picture outcome or the big picture value prop. This should never be a feature. This should
Yep.
always be some like very big, the goal of this question is for you to ask me, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning of this, which was, hey, we help people be better humans and how they relate to their prospects, their buyers, and their clients. Then I'm going to stop talking. And your response naturally to that is going to be like, okay, what does that mean? How do
Yeah.
you do that? Why do you do that? And now I can go into method, which is, yeah, we do that by analyzing every conversation your team has with every single person they talk to externally, and we pull this data. That actually means that you're going to be able to forecast much more accurately because you're going to be able to compare all of that data to your past losses and your past wins and know exactly what wins or exactly what happens before you get a closed one.
Okay. And what do they then do? What's the typical response? Is there a question that they kind of typically react with, or do you go back to kind of some of your core questions?
Yeah, so after that, how do you do that question? Whenever I give the method, there's almost always like a awkward pause after you give the method because they're trying to decide, okay, is this relevant to me?
Yeah. I was
is-
doing the same thing in my head. I
You're
was
like,
like,
what am I supposed
okay,
to say?
what would I say at that point?
Right. And so now we're going to give it a discovery question of being like, all right, so quick question for you. How accurate is your forecast right now? Are you happy with the accuracy? So now I'm opening up into discovery and trying to get you to talk to me.
Okay, so you maybe hit a couple of these. Let them noodle on it for a second, but you might hit a couple of these questions. Then how do you bring it to how do you kind of bring it to close? Do you try to kind of traverse back to the meeting? So look, if your forecast isn't great, let's talk. Let's book a meeting. What's that change?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I wait till they ask me a buying question typically. So do you integrate with this? Do you do X, Y, and Z? So I'm looking for a question that tells me they want to continue the conversation. And then I'm going to go, hey, you know what? I know I called you out of the blue. Like I said at the beginning of this call, I was calling to book a meeting with you. Do you have availability tomorrow? So now I have one, a question that's contingent on us taking that meeting. And two, I am pulling back to what I said at the beginning of the call. They always knew the point of the call was to book a meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I like it. And then you're done.
Yeah, and then
Then
we're
you
done.
got the
We just
meeting.
move on. We have a meeting. And
All right,
at
next
the very
call.
end there, we can just jump into the those more technical discovery questions if you have them.
Yeah.
But it should feel very simple to the prospect from the buyer's side of this is relevant to me from the very beginning. I want to be on this call. This might be something related to my responsibilities and what I'm accountable for. Before you get into even talking about your product and your features.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that opener. So I'm calling to book a meeting.
Yeah. Very, very direct, very honest, right?
I like it. Cool. Well, I think I get we might have to include some structure for the audience so they can see that. I know we were kind of going back and forth, but I like kind of that structure. If you had to summarize that structure in kind of just a couple quick sentences, it's opener, boom, 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 boom. What's kind of that quick? Can you do that?
Yeah, I can. So you've got your opener, you've got your opt-in question, big picture value prop, method, discovery question.
Love it. Cool. All righty. All right. Well, I want to get a couple other pieces out. Again, I appreciate the practicality. LinkedIn is something. I want to just switch gears for a second. So many leaders, they're on LinkedIn, but maybe they're not using it. What do you feel like is the difference between being kind of present and really leveraging LinkedIn well in this world?
Oh gosh, so LinkedIn is a really big deal to us at Ask Elephant. It is about 30 to 40% of our SDR source deals every single month. So we're
Wow.
heavily on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The leaders that I see use it really well, they are not using it like it's just a professional platform where you go to get jobs. They are using it like it's a social community. They
Sure.
are there to build relationships with other people and just have conversations.
Yep. And they have to spend some time to do that, I suppose, right? I think that's sometimes the challenge is feels like it's another to do, and sellers or leaders, they have so many things already going on. It gets a little bit challenging. When you see people utilize it effectively, what are they doing? What are they doing differently that the job seekers obviously aren't doing?
Yeah, I think it really is that focus on how do I start as many conversations as possible. We talk
Yeah.
about SDRing, right, as a concept. There's the traditional way is to measure them on how many activities did you do, how many comments did you leave, how many posts did you make. But the activities are not what lead to actual conversations. Just like the number of dials I make is not necessarily correlated to actually how many people I get on the phone, right? So you have to be very focused on what do I need to do to go have a conversation with people.
Yes.
So I'm going to be focused a lot on the quality of what am I putting out there, and I'm going to be focusing a lot more on comments than I am on posts. And whenever I'm commenting on people's posts, I'm trying to find ways to start a conversation with them somewhere else. So I'm very publicly engaging with them, but then I'm also starting a conversation that can go to a DM and we can go back and forth about.
Got
And as a
it.
seller,
You bring that term up, like nurturing in public a lot, right? Is that
too.
kind of that idea? That's kind of the, get them out in public, start to bring them high level, and then bring them maybe into the DM world.
Yeah, I use the phrase sphere of influence as well. So if you think of LinkedIn as a network, right, you have your sphere of influence, which is I was talking to James Buckley over at Sell Better about this, and he says that sphere of influence is a real estate term for your social circles in real estate. That's not where I learned it, but I think it's how you should be thinking about this. It's who do I know and who do they know, right? On LinkedIn, it's who am I connected to and who are they connected to? Who's going to see my content? Who's going to see my comments? Who's going to be aware that I exist? And then how do I move people from that general sphere of influence into actually knowing who I am and having familiarity enough to have a conversation with me?
Sure.
And so comments are the best way to do that. If I'm nurturing in public, I'm taking you from, hey, you have seen my name before, to, hey, you know who I am. You have had a conversation with me before. And now I am moving you, if you want to think about this like marketing, this is a funnel. I'm moving you from being aware of me to knowing my name and wanting to talk to me to having a conversation with me. You are so much more likely to have a conversation with me in the DMs or to answer my cold call if I call you because you've been within that funnel.
How do you find how do you track? Is there a tool or best practice you kind of do to make sure that sometimes, I've got 5,000 followers and there's all this noise in my feed, but really getting down to just that prospect level, or is it just in kind of a navigator type tool, or how are you making sure that you're kind of monitoring the right people so that you can engage in that kind of public forum?
That is very, very practitioner specific. But if you go into LinkedIn and you hit enter, just in blank on the search, you can go in and you can filter your feed. So I actually have like a filter set that I've saved. That's the titles that I search for and the industries I search for. And now my feed is only people in my network who have that specific title or in that industry. And then I have several of those saved so I can rotate through them. Now, a little bit less specific and practitioner. There's a tool that I use called First Touch, and it's by this guy named Michael Curson. And it pulls the data from our HubSpot and from Clay and from the places where we have signals and creates tasks to, hey, like go connect with this person, go comment on their posts, etc. It doesn't do it for you, but it does help me prioritize where I put my time on LinkedIn while I'm on LinkedIn. It's fantastic.
Interesting. Appreciate that. That's really helpful. How do you kind of make that transition to the pitch? How do you keep it from kind of feeling awkward? You've been maybe navigating this a little bit of a nurturing idea, but it's time to now make the pitch. How do you bring that to bear?
So I recently pulled all of my LinkedIn messages. I pulled like 25,000 of them and I put them into Claude and I was analyzing like, okay, when do I make the pitch? When is most effective? What am I pitching that works? It's a fun thing to do if you have the data. What I found is that one, I have the highest conversion rate when I wait till message 5. So there's a little thing that works for me. And what I typically do is those first few messages are me talking to them about, hey, how are things going? I love meeting other people like you. What are you doing? So it is fairly surface level, but it's exactly what I would say if I was on a cold call trying to build some level of rapport first.
Same thing.
And then I'm moving to a big picture value outcome of being like, yeah, Ask Elephant does X, Y, and Z. And it feels very natural. I'm building the same type of buyer narrative that we talk about on the phones. I'm paying attention to momentum and how quickly they answer me. All of those traits just move over into a chat-based form.
Got it. Yeah. So a lot of the same structure we just talked about through kind of the phone, you try to bring in as a natural conversation, and then 5 messages in though. Yeah. Okay.
That's the secret right now is when I pitch.
That feels about right. Okay, cool. Any last words of wisdom on LinkedIn? I wanted to see if I could hit you on one more topic before I let you go, but any other words of wisdom, parting advice?
I would only say that it's going to work best when you do it with other people. So if you want your company to have a high presence, don't post about the brand, but have multiple people at your company that you're engaging with to help build that company awareness.
So kind of get everybody involved a little bit.
Get everybody involved.
Yeah. Mostly commenting, mostly posting, a little bit of everything. Just be involved?
Just be involved, like engage with each other and have real conversations in public so that you develop this almost a niche or a clique that people can look at and go, oh, that's a relationship I want to be part of. I want to be part of this.
Okay, interesting. All right, last few minutes, I just wanted to get your take on, there's always a debate between marketing and sales, and where does sales development fit into that, and how do we align all three of them, and it gets all messy. How in a big picture, how do you kind of think about that? How have you seen that work and navigate it?
Oh gosh, the SDR marketing alignment, the sales and marketing alignment are always difficult. I think the SDRs have this nice benefit of being in between those two settings. A lot of what SDRs do is marketing, right? We're building awareness. We're in the pre-awareness stage. And so that we align more with marketing than we think we do. We align more with sales than we think we do often. And so just thinking of ourselves as naturally the bridge helps a fair bit with helping build that alignment.
Got it. And what role do you feel like AI is playing or not playing in this particular idea, this kind of marketing and sales development alignment?
Yeah, well, for us, it's mostly in prioritization. So if your marketing has a list, your marketing team is going to be building a lot larger list than your SDR team is going to be building, right? For every 100 people that your SDR team targets, your marketing team is probably targeting 50,000 people just by the way that their tools work and the way that ads work, right? So AI is terrible at building relationships and sending out those messages and building rapport like humans can. But it's fantastic at telling you where you should be putting your time and who the most valuable companies out of what marketing is targeting are going to be for your SDRs. And so we have a list of different signals that we monitor for engagement with ads, and that helps prioritize the SDRs. The SDRs are targeting only the top 5% of companies that are most likely to convert. And so now the SDR's conversion rate is much higher, and marketing attribution for those companies coming in that maybe never would have come inbound if they didn't have an SDR target them.
So you kind of find break that up and have the SDRs maybe focus on one part and have marketing focus on the rest, maybe the longer tail a little bit there. Okay, wow. Great talk track. Fun to hear kind of someone who's doing it on a daily basis and actually winning. We hit a bunch of different topics. So maybe just take a step back again. A lot of companies who are joining in today and listening in, maybe they're starting their journey. They're hearing so much noise in AI, and they really want to build this kind of awesome sales development team. If you were doing this again, what advice would you give to them as people are kind of starting their journey to build kind of a powerful sales development organization?
Yeah, if I was at the very start of this and had to do it from scratch, the first thing I would say is try to do as much of it for free as you possibly can. Like, don't throw a lot of money at big tools right away. Go figure out how you get sets. Start from scratch. How do I actually start conversations? What do those conversations look like that convert? How did that feel organic? And then try to maximize how many organic conversations you can have rather than how many people can I pitch.
Yeah.
The conversion rates are so dramatically different than if I'm going, hey, how do I reach as many people at scale as possible? But I haven't figured out yet what actually converts for my prospects, my buyers, and my industry.
I love that one. Yeah, it's like we think we can always just turn it over to technology and it'll magically figure it out, but it always just makes whatever we're doing better or makes what we're doing worse, and so if you don't have anything, it'll probably just make it worse, right?
Yeah. There's this acronym that I stole from a Minecraft YouTuber. It's called GOAT, and it's grind, optimize, automate, thrive. You have to start by grinding. You have to figure out, hey, what works. Then you can start optimizing it and go, okay, how do I make sure that majority of our conversations convert? And then we automate. But you have to start with a win. If you're getting 0% reply rates on what you're doing by hand, you're going to get 0% reply rates when you're doing 100,000 of them at scale.
I love it. Yeah, and that's basically, I feel like we run into that fairly often. People are like, I thought AI or automation would do it better. Well, what were you doing before? Zero.
It wasn't working.
Well, it's still doing zero. It didn't figure it out. It just did what you did faster. So anyways, I love it. Great advice. Okay. Well, hey, really appreciate the talk track. If someone wanted to get in touch with you or learn a little more about what you guys are doing over there at Ask Elephant, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always down to have a conversation with you on LinkedIn. I may message you on a pitch by message 5. And if you don't want to do that, we have a website. It's askelephant.ai, and you can learn more about the product there.
Love it. All right. Well, again, appreciate the time. And for the audience, have a fantastic day.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Or thank you, Gabe.